Okay, so so I just stopped the recording accidentally, so I'll just fix this. So yeah, so 150 is the height there, and it's not a bad idea to rename up the top. So I can just change the name there to 150 by 50. Click OK. OK again, and yeah, it will go down. So then, but notice all of them have gone down. So I'm going to use a line again now, and choose the bottom of the floor, top of the joist, and then finish. And notice how they'll all go up then. So it's a nice thing when you make an array and it makes a group like it has, then you only need to edit one of them and it's going to change all of them. Yeah, you would do, each array is a separate group. So, yeah, just to give you maybe a couple more pointers with the array tool, well, notice how this is nice. That's lined up automatically because I did the spacing right, so that's a nice thing. Then with the joist here, or any actually, it doesn't matter which one you select, you'll get the count option back if you zoom out or just have a look for it. So I can change that to more. I can make that 20. But then you might run into a situation like this where I've got 5 stairs. So I don't want the joists to go across those. But here, I might actually change this. So I'll just make that, say, 18. Right, but I don't want to remove all of them because here I've got a joist that definitely won't go through the 5 stair, and so I'll just make sure I'm looking at the right place. Yeah, so this is going to be the shaft where I have my 5 stair. This actually should be the cross one. That's better. Okay, so that's my 5 stair area, and so this joist here needs to stop there, but I'm not going to delete it because if I look in the ceiling plan, it doesn't make sense already, you'll see that the joist still would need to be there, but stop at the 5 stair. So in other words, this joist needs to be different to the previous ones. So I can remove it from that array group simply by going to ungroup up here. And now I can select it, and it's no longer part of the group. So using the arrows that I showed you before, I can stretch it. Fortunately, I haven't made it so you can cut voids out of the beams, so you do need to stretch them like this sometimes, and then if you need one on the other side, you just have to copy it to get the other one. So here above the 5 stair, there'd be another joist starting from the column there and going, oh, perfect, all the way to the top. So now I suppose I could select those two using control. I've selected the top and the bottom, and I could do another array from there. So array really is just a quick way of copying, so it's in the end not going to be very different to using copy tool. It's just going to be faster. So 20, and so that's just a guess, that's too many. Here you can see I only need to have 18. So again, nice way of getting things copied quickly, but if the groups get in the way, just remember you can always select anything in the array and ungroup it, and it goes back to normal. So that gives you the floor joists. You can see here, got those in there, and it'll be a nice thing when you look at your perspectives then. You start to get a bit more detail, and it really will add a lot to these spaces. I had a better view somewhere. Instead, what have I done with it? Maybe this one. Yeah. Oh no, they're not there. Why aren't they there? Oh, because it's too far. This way. Here they are. Yeah, so good for other detail in, but again, they definitely help. So then, like I was saying, you can use the same family for the beams. It's almost the same process. So with the ground floor ceiling plan now, I could place a new instance of that family, or I can just copy one that's already been made. Yeah, once you've changed the height, then yeah, that's right. Yeah, you start in the ground floor plan, but once you bring them up, then you won't see them there, so you have to go to the ceiling plan. So now you can see I've got this one selected that's, again, part of the array. So you might be thinking, before I copy it, I could ungroup it. But let's show you again one more little trick. You can leave it grouped, and just so it's clear, I know it's a group because it's got the dashed line around it. So I'll click copy that, and I've actually copied a pair, that's okay. But it's still a group. It's got the dashed line around it. But the thing I wanted to show you is that it's not the same group as these. So I can select this new group and ungroup it, and it won't affect the previous ones. So that can be good to know. And I'm going to delete this other one and just leave then the one now that I've copied. So then I'm going to go into my... so I was going to go into the section, but I don't have one in this area, so I might just make a new section, and so hopefully getting used to just making sections as you need them to see your interior. For interior design, they're really important. You're always going to need to look at the inside of your space, and sections are essential for that. So looking at the image here, has anyone been trying to work out the height of those or the size of those beams? I'm going to take a stab and say they'd be about 400 by 400. I'd say there's part of it concealed here. It's a bit unclear with this photo. The resolution's not fantastic. There could even be something up there, so it might be a fairly flat one. But normally the depth is greater than the breadth, normally. So I'm going to assume, though, that they're even for now. So again, I'm going to say 400 by 400. And so, again, edit type while this is selected. Duplicate. I need to do because I don't want to change the original size. So, so again, duplicate and then 400 by 400. And then I can just make both the height and the width 400. To set the height in the space. Yeah, ungroup, yeah. You've got to ungroup the one you changed, yeah. Fine, yeah. So again, now to get the height right, I can use the Align tool. And this time pick the bottom of my joist. So here I'm being careful and making sure I don't get the centre of that column or the grid or anything. So zooming there will help a lot to get the bottom of the joist, or the top of the beam there. So the top of the column, I mean, would be the same. And now then I can choose the top of the beam, and that sets the height. I can set the horizontal position at the same time using the grid line there as the first pick, and then the centre of the beam as the second pick. Now this needs to come down, so the columns all need to come down actually by another 400. So I'll simply select one, right click, select all instances in entire project, and change the top offset to minus 570. There we go. And now, there we are, perfect. Got that sitting at the base of the beam. So then I can go ahead and, well, let's have a look at this a bit more. So we've got these that are perpendicular to the joist. So they're the main things. Now, if we can find another one, I might have to do a site visit actually before confirming this. You can see maybe inside here, but it's pretty hard. Yeah. So, yeah, so look, at the moment I'm just going to do them in one direction, and we'll have to confirm what's happening in the other direction. Sorry? This part? Yeah, uncorrect it, or? Oh, I'll just finish off and then I'll come over and have a look. I've only got one more step to do. So, so I've got the beam then, which should show in the ceiling plan. But at the moment, it's the same direction as the joists. So we probably do have a beam in that direction actually, but I'm just going to change it by pressing spacebar. So that flips at 90 degrees. And I'm going to use the align tool maybe in plan, and I'll choose the grid line first, and then choose the centre of the beam. Take it that way. Now, actually, let's look at this one last time. So we can see the direction of this. If we knew which way this image was, we'd know which way the joists go. Ah, right, okay. So that means, is it... right, so that should be parallel to Mary. So that means it should be the long way?
No.
That's Mary Street, isn't it?
That's Mary Street at the bottom, but the sidewall we were pointing to is actually along Revit Street.
This one?
Yeah, because you can see the light coming through. Where the bench is actually at the front of the shop, so that's the window.
Yeah.
We're looking into the shop that way from Mary Street, so we're looking into it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's Mary Street along here, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. So the beam should be parallel to Mary Street. So that's so that's exactly the way it is. So then I can stretch this across, and again just make it the full length. And then here I'd probably just use copy rather than trying to use array. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. No, I'll use array again, since they all should be the same spacing. So by picking it up on a grid, I can then just go to the next one and type in how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Done. Maybe we'll look at doing the steel beams later, because I think that'll be plenty now to get you going with the structure. So I will just go into a 3D view where now, that's better. Oh, good. Okay, so I don't have to flip the columns. So if you realise your columns are wrong, you can flip them with the space bar anyway if you realise that your capital is going the wrong way. And I'm calling them capitals. There's another word for that in the timber column, but you know what I mean, the top of the column. So you might find it's going the wrong way. Should match the beam. So when you select a column, you can have multiple selected. Just press spacebar. Flips them 90 degrees. So, like I said, it'll give some time to work on that. That's the last main thing I was going to go through today. So if you can get that done, that'd be good. And again, we can do the steel beams much later, and that might be dependent on your design anyway. But just having those, makes a huge difference, I think. So the final thing I'll say there is try to get as much as you can done on one level before you think about copying those things up through the different levels. Oh, just copy and paste will work. Yeah. But get it right first. Otherwise it's, you have to go and adjust it for 6 levels if you make a mistake and then realise after you've copied it. So here, lots of little things, like say if you've got voids, you're going to have joists copied either side, and it's quite a lot of work to do it just for one level, so you don't have to repeat that over many levels. Alright, so I've got my columns, and now I want the hardwood beams that sit on top of those, but also I want floor joists exposed, which we don't have here. And so I'm going to put those in and then do the beams afterwards. So there you can see I've left a gap for my floor joists. I'll actually have to bring the columns down even further once my beams go in, but again, that's enough space for the floor joists, so I'll go and put those in now. But I need to think also about the direction. So looking at the image there, I suppose, well, we're going to have beams going in each direction, so that's not too confusing. But then the joists will only go in one direction. So looking in the ground floor plan, which way do you think the joists would be most likely to go? Vertical or horizontal? Yeah, definitely vertical. Exactly, that's right. So that's usually the case. Not always. You'd be surprised, because with a lot of older buildings, they still knew how to do structures, so they might have worked out that it was possible to do it this way, and they could have had reasons for that. But I'd say, yeah, you're right. Most likely it would be the short distance, so that is the span of about 3.8 metres. And so I'm going to take a stab at that and say a 150 joist would span that distance without too much trouble. So, so to place a joist, you can use the same family for the beam as well. It's a family I've made, and it is a beam family. So you need to go to the structure tab and choose beam to load it. But it's a much easier beam to use than the ones you've already used. So again, clicking on the beam tool, I'm going to go to load family, to the Revit library again on the P drive, and then structural again, where you'll see this family called adjustable timber component. Yep, structural, and then you should see this file. So adjustable timber component is what I've called it. It's basically a box that you can stretch. So you can make it any sized piece of timber that you need, as long as it's rectangular. And that should be a really useful thing for you, because obviously there are going to be lots of rectangular bits of timber in your designs, usually. Okay, so yeah, adjustable timber component. Adjustable box is the same thing, but this is just so it's clear that it's timber. So, double click on it, and it should then come straight in and be visible as long as you're in a floor plan, and then you can place it. But I'm going to press space first before I just click anywhere to place it. I'm not going to be too precious here about the position. I'm just going to place it somewhere so I can see it, and then cancel, so that I can come back and select it and just show you the way it works. So like I said, I've set it up so that it's easier to use than the regular beam families. First thing is, it won't slope on you, so it won't have a different height for the start and the end. It's always going to be flat, so you can easily move it up and down without worrying about changing the angle. Also, you can just stretch it by eye. So if you select it in a view like this, you can see it's got arrows at the top and the bottom, and you can just drag on those arrows and change the length like that. It's that easy. So hopefully that'll make it easy to use. Now, I've done it between the bays, which is really the span, but actually this will go all the way to a void. So if there's a void, you need to stop it there. But maybe along this side, I don't have any voids in mind there, so I might take this all the way to the end. In reality, you'd have probably several pieces of timber that are broken up, but you don't need to show those joins, so you can just have a continuous joist running all the way along. Then you know spacing for floor joists? It used to be, yeah, actually, yeah, so that's a good one to remember. With a building like this, it probably still is. Now, you should know as well that it's changed. So now the minimum is 450, so if you put in new floor joists, never do them 600 anymore. You can't actually, according to change standards changed. So they've made it 450 minimum for everything now. But again, older buildings might be different. So, and it's nicer in your perspectives. If you have them at 450s, they'll look really close and you won't see what's in between them. So 600 will look a lot better as well. So, so here I want this to be 600 from the corner. I'm simply going to make sure it's selected, and then I can click the move button and snap it from the centre line. So because it's a family, I can easily snap to the centre there, which is an endpoint, not a midpoint. And then I'm going to move that over to the corner of my wall. And then I'm going to click the move button again and just click a point in empty space, take it to the right, type in 600. So that way I know I've got 600 centres from the corner. And then from that point on, I could copy to get more, but the array tool is going to be a quicker way of copying them. And also, before I copy, I might just show you the height and how that works. So I've got the setup working in plan, but now I'm going to open a section view. Just double click on this section line and make sure I can find it there. Yep. So it comes in on the ground, which is actually helpful because often you'll start in a plan view. So I've left it like that. Again, just to make it easier. And this one isn't tied to a plane or anything, so you can just drag it or click the move button and snap to the top and then just snap to the bottom of maybe the floorboards. So perfect floor joist, and now that can be copied or arrayed. It's up to you how you do it. Probably not a bad idea though if you haven't used the array tool very much to practice with that. Oh, snapping to the centre of the floor. So we can try using the align tool as well. So I'll just move mine up a little bit so it's out of position. And if I go and choose the align tool from the modify tab there, so with align, I'll pick the bottom of the floor, that's what I want to line it up with, and then top of my joist. Did you do what I just did? So I'll just repeat that. So, okay, so again with the align tool, I'll choose the bottom edge of the floor and then the top of the joist. Should snap. Oh yeah. So yeah, I've got thin lines. Yeah, that's a good idea. Change the scale temporarily, and that's a really good way of working. Yeah. Sure. So, okay. So now, like I said, you could copy, but it's not a bad idea to try array with that selected. I'm going to click the array button, and I'll just do a few. So I'm going to click a point in space, move the cursor to the right, type in 600. And enter, and then you can see there it's highlighted this number, which is my count, and I'll just try 10. I'm not going to try and go too far and do the whole building because again we're going to have other things over here. We'll need to change it, but again I just want to give you an idea how the array tool works. And so here you can see I deliberately left the height so I can show you. If I need to change this now, I can still select one of those joists, and you can see there it's got this dashed rectangle because of the array. So how do I edit it? And this is something you're probably getting used to. Oh, you could, but even before that, have a look on the ribbon, and you'll see there it's got options that are a bit different because it's a group. So yeah, look, normally you would select all of them, but here you can just go to Edit Group, and now it's just highlighted the one that I selected. So I can select it now and then go to edit type, and I'm going to change the height there. Remember I said it's 150, so I'm going to change. I'm just going to change it, so I'm not going to duplicate. I'm just going to change this to 150.